Here are 5 bulb planting mistakes and how to avoid them. Hi, I'm Kelly. Welcome back to the Frog Pond Veg Patch. These are 5 bulb planting mistakes that I've made that hopefully I can help you avoid in the future. So the first mistake is when and how to plant your bulbs. Bulbs flower in the spring, but we need to plant them in the fall because they need to have a minimum chilling time of between 6 and 12 weeks. So you want to make sure that either you're planting them in the fall between September and December, depending on where you're at, or if you're someplace that is warm and doesn't get winter, you can put your bulbs in the fridge for between 6 to 12 weeks to give them that chilling period. You also want to look for a sunny place to plant your bulbs that has well-draining soil. When you're planting your bulbs, most bulbs have a basal end, which is where the roots come out. That end is flat, and they also have a pointy end where the shoots come out. You want to make sure that the flat end is down in the soil and the pointy end is up. Some bulbs are a little confusing looking, and you can put them on the side, but the bulb knows which way to grow, so the roots will come out in the correct direction, and it'll grow around where it needs to be. A second mistake I've made is not paying attention to the critters in my yard that are going to eat the bulbs. Some bulbs, like tulips, are magnets for deer, and they will eat any tulips that you have. So if you have issues with deer or voles or mice or any other critters, you want to try to grow bulbs that are resistant to those animals, like planting daffodil bulbs as opposed to tulip bulbs. The third mistake I've made is fertilizing the bulbs. Fertilizing is not necessary for bulbs. They have everything they need to produce a flower next year already in that bulb. And for the most part, they're going to be able to get the nutrients they need from your local soil. If you have any questions about the nutrients that are in your soil, the best option would be to do a soil test for your garden. That way you'll know if you need to add any nutrients to your garden. Number 4 would be planting bulbs in pots. It is very tempting for me to plant a whole bunch of bulbs in pots, but in our wet and cold climate, those bulbs will end up rotting in the soil. So if you want to plant bulbs in pots, there are a few things you can do to try to get that success. The first thing you can do is use a very well-draining soil. Mix in some sand or some grit into that soil. Once you've planted the bulbs, put them somewhere where they will be out of the elements, so that could be in a shed or a cold garage or under a deck. You also want to protect them from any critters, so maybe cover them with some fencing. The bulbs that are in that pot are going to be exposed to more cold temperatures than they would be in the ground. So there's a higher chance of failure if you're in a very cold climate as opposed to in a very warm southern climate. Another mistake that you can end up doing is cutting the foliage back too soon in the spring. You need to let the foliage die down naturally because that foliage is what's feeding the bulb for the next year. So you want to wait until it is died back all the way to the ground. You can remove the flower, the dead flower, from the bulb, but you need to leave the foliage there. And this is a bonus mistake, one that I am guilty of every single year. Planting bulbs is difficult, especially if you have rocky soil or clayey soil. So when you're ordering bulbs, be careful of how many you order. I always order too many, and then Dan regrets it because he digs all the holes. So instead, plant only what you can for that year, and remember that you can add to your display every year, and also every year those bulbs are going to multiply and you can dig them up and separate them and plant them around your garden as well. So thanks so much for joining me. If you've made any of those mistakes, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next time.